Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today for our last and I think our most exciting virtual event of 2022. We've got a packed agenda today and hope you enjoy the session. As always, these events, we want to hear from you. So throughout the presentation, please submit your questions, comments, and queries, and we'll answer as many of these as we can during the Q&A. If we can't get to your question at the end of the Q&A, then we'll be sure to make sure that someone follows up with you from our team. On the agenda today, we'll be speaking to Jeff, our CEO, Jeff Casale. He's going to look to the business, the technology, discuss our DNA and where we're taking our data platform next. Afterwards, joining Jeff will be our Chief Customer Officer, John Loparco, and our special guest moderator for this fireside chat, Chris Preimesberger. And then after that, we'll open our Q&A session where Jeff and John will be joined by members of our executive team here at MarkLogic to answer as many questions as we can in the time allowed. If we don't get to your questions, like I said, we'll follow up once the webinar finishes. If you're looking for even more detailed information about ML11, the technical features, related blog posts, FAQs, or info sheets, make sure you go to marklogic.com/ML11. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand you across to Jeff. Jeff.
Great. Thank you very much, Phil. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
Super. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I am very excited to have an opportunity to speak to everybody today. And first of all, I want to provide some thanks to everyone who has got us to this point to be able to be discussing the launch of MarkLogic 11. It's been a concerted effort across the entire company, but I want to give special thanks to the product management and engineering teams. Delivering a release of this level with this many enhancements on time has been quite a feat. And also for our customers and partners who have continually engaged with us on improving MarkLogic over the last 2 years, you've played a critical part in this release as well. So today we're gonna discuss our focus as a company. We'll discuss MarkLogic 11, of course, how we believe that this release is going to accelerate our journey. We'll talk about how some of the new innovations will continue to enrich our data platform and how MarkLogic continues to evolve to meet today's challenges and unlock tomorrow's opportunities for our customers. So let's get started and talk about MarkLogic. So what you'll see in MarkLogic is really a doubling down on our core DNA. We are at our core a multi-model database with integrated search. And as a result of our acquisition last year of SmartLogic, now the addition of deep integration of semantic AI. This combination has created a powerful platform, allowing us to simplify complex data while also delivering to you data agility. In speaking to our customers, it has become clear that they want to work with information differently. They want to connect, create, interpret, and consume data along with everything that is known about it. They want to be able to ingest anything, make nimble and powerful changes to any aspect of how data is used, interpreted, and acted on with speed and ease. Data that is in context to its use and its audience. Data that's assured of its quality. And data that's unified and complete. I've been humbled by the level of trust our customers have placed in MarkLogic with their most sensitive data. Over the last 2 years, we've expanded in over 100 customers, both new customers coming to MarkLogic for the first time, as well as existing customers expanding and using MarkLogic in new ways. We're committed to solving our customers' most complex data challenges, at the same time helping them to build a future-proof data platform to unlock additional opportunities. Now let's move on and take a little bit of a look on what's happened over the last 2 years. Since the Vector acquisition of MarkLogic in October of 2020, we've been busy. We completed the first ever acquisition in our 20+ year history with SmartLogic, furthering the integration of Semaphore and semantic AI technology into our data platform. And because MarkLogic is much more than a database, we continue to invest in our vision of a single, unified data platform that creates value from complex data and allows you to rapidly respond to business changes. Let's talk a little bit about that investment and how we think about the areas where we direct the majority of those resources. And we refer to these as our guiding principles. When any company makes a large investment in technology, and this is particularly true of mission-critical data platforms, it's not just for the capabilities that are present on that day to solve that specific issue. Certainly that's critical, right? That entry point into an organization, that evaluation, making sure that you're going to be able to achieve the objectives as you see them today. But it's much, much more than that. We believe that our customers expect us to continuously improve, innovate, and enhance our product. And today we're very excited to be sharing that just that has taken place with the progress that we've made, utilizing our guiding product principles that will apply now in the foreseeable future for MarkLogic. Our success is really down to you. Customers are at the center of everything we do. To those of our customers, and there are many who have been part of the MarkLogic product program for many years, we appreciate your commitment. We hope you're as excited about MarkLogic 11 as we are. To newer customers, thank you for your recent business. We know you have a lot of different options out there, and we thank you for the trust that you've placed in us. As I've said before, we want to be very clear about who MarkLogic is and who it isn't. We're not trying to be everything for everyone. I won't talk about all of the possible capabilities that we could deliver, but instead, we'll focus on the core differentiators, those guiding principles that we're using to direct our investment and our focus and intention of the company going forward. So let's look at number one on that list, the unified data platform with semantics. Its purpose is to maximize data value, accelerate insightful decisions, and securely deliver data agility. The unified data platform enables organizations to securely connect data and metadata, create and interpret meaning, and consume high quality contextualized data. It's our core competitive advantage to be able to handle so many different data types that the world throws at us, but do it all on a single data platform. We put that data into context, acting as a single data resource that can be searched and consumed for analytics, operations, and as the basis for many business applications. To get the capabilities we provide from one unified platform would require integration in often tens of different products from multiple vendors. This speaks directly to the issues of cost and speed and time to value. It also adds significant project and operational risk when you're pulling together products from different companies with different release schedules. You end up having every one of your environments be completely unique. And that just creates a level of risk that our customers are not exposed to with a unified data platform. Now, we've talked a little bit about SmartLogic and the addition of semantic AI. We've always been strong on semantics in the history of MarkLogic, but the acquisition of Semaphore has taken it to a new level. For example, much of the metadata management and processing is now no code. Exciting developments are continuing to take place as we leverage these combined teams and their history and knowledge of working together. Next up, security and scale, right, which we consider a first equal. The MarkLogic platform offers transformational security. for what is a complex regulatory environment for many of our customers, subject to secrecy for others. On a daily basis, MarkLogic remains in lockstep with some of the biggest data processing volumes on the planet. We don't see these trends stopping, and we will continue to respond appropriately and always be investing on the forefront to make sure that we are at the outer limits of security and scale and not holding back our customers. The next is data quality. It's clear that our customers care about data quality. It sounds strange to say, but some projects, indeed some whole organizations, don't always care about this aspect. Together with our customers, we do emphatically. And quality is not just about provenance, governance, and lineage. These are all intrinsic in the MarkLogic platform. It's often about completing the data set. For example, by examining the source record and creating data from it, or by harmonizing data's meaning so the data can be unified. We're unique in that respect. We can both create and interpret data and its metadata inline, actively, and profoundly. And ease of use. As customers, you'll be familiar with the part of the platform's architecture known as the Universal Index. It truly was a brilliant innovation at the time, and it continues to remain so to this day. From a business perspective, it means we can immediately put data to use without a lengthy ETL project prior to gaining data value. It's another aspect of how the platform integrates with, links to, and connects with other applications, data sources, and workflows, delivering immediate value. These 4 principles will guide our investments, just as they have up to the release of MarkLogic 11, but more importantly, as we look beyond MarkLogic 11, continue to have these be influencing how we're focusing our investments. I want to close this portion by thanking you once again for your incredible support. Thanks to you, MarkLogic has evolved. We're now a profitable company. We're growing at 15% recurring revenue. We're incredibly well positioned for the future. And that is thanks to the continuing support of our customers, and we appreciate that dialogue. Now, I know we're just scratching the surface on everything that's taken place with MarkLogic 11. There's going to be a separate session scheduled for a technical deep dive into all of the capabilities of the MarkLogic 11 release. This is scheduled for Wednesday, January 18th. That's at 11 Eastern time, and we'll be communicating more as that event gets closer. So I trust at this point I've given you some insight into our principles, into what drives our product direction, both now and into the future. Now let's move on to the fireside chat portion of our session. So I'm very excited for this because we're moving into more and more interaction, and we're going to get to our Q&A, which is probably the best part. But for our fireside chat, joining me will be my Chief Customer Officer, John Loparco, and moderating our fireside chat, we have Chris Preimesberger. And Chris, we're really excited to have you joining us today. Chris is a tech industry journalist. He's been researching, reporting, and analyzing IT news and trends since 1995, when he published an article defining a new protocol called Java. He has published more than 5,000 articles on eWEEK and is now writing for the New Stack, VentureBeat ZDNet, and others. So with that, Chris, let me turn it over to you. And thank you for joining us today.
All right, you're welcome, Jeff. Thank you very much. Appreciate being here to help pose some of the questions so that we can drill down into what MarkLogic offers. And so I'm interested as a journalist and as a longtime tech observer, just to see what's new in the platform. I've written about MarkLogic several times over the years, and I've always learned quite a bit from what it brings to the table. So thanks for having us here today, and let's jump right into the questions. These are questions I would ask in a basic interview with a company. So let's start off with this. MarkLogic is a respected scalable data platform that focuses on ingesting any kind of data, tagging it, identifying it, and being able to serve that data out for many different types of use cases. And that's an awful lot to do. So that's a heavy load. How does MarkLogic's data platform stand apart as a viable alternative to others like Oracle, IBM, and name them? Jeff?
Sure, Chris. I mean, I'd say a few things. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of barbs that get thrown around in this industry between companies. And one of the first things I'll say is all of our customers have some version of offerings from Oracle and IBM and obviously many of the other major players. And these companies make great products and they power a lot of very important applications for our customers. Where we really focus MarkLogic is on leveraging the data that is either produced or exists or is leveraged throughout these organizations with their systems, making it more usable and available across the enterprise and allowing for secure data sharing. So I think Chris, I get back to what's unique. And I said it earlier in my comments that we often see a lot of individual systems that have certain capabilities. And then we see customers that have outcomes that they're trying to achieve. And there's a gap in their ability to do that with these individual systems. And so what ultimately ends up happening is they cobble together interfaces between these systems and try to utilize that in a way to deliver the information that they're trying to get to. And ultimately, the more you try to create these connections, you create issues around security and scalability and performance. So MarkLogic is unique in that it is a single data platform for both data and metadata. We can create that unified resource of data and what it means as a single service. So I would really come back and not diminish those products, but focus on the fact that by having a true multi-model platform with this built-in search and semantics, we really believe at MarkLogic that we're best for dealing with complex data, and that many of these other products have things that they're best at, but it's simply not that.
Okay. All right, Jeff, thanks for that. How about explaining what's new in MarkLogic 11, which is just coming out?
There is so much that's new in MarkLogic 11, and it's hard to scratch the surface. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned we're going to have the deep dive later on. But I think of it in a couple of dimensions. I mean, there's clearly an enormous amount that went into just enhancing, hardening the core server itself, right? And I keep coming back to that sort of security, scalability, performance. We're in the largest organizations on the planet, right? Public, private, regulated industries. And we never want to have a customer that's hitting the wall or hitting the outer boundaries of what's possible. So I think some of the table stakes that go into these releases are just that continual hardening, right? We have customers that have been with us for 10, 15, 20 years running massive data intensive platforms. And running some of the country's most critical applications that need to run. So we've invested in that area in the server. But to be specific, I'd say there's a few areas. We have several enhancements, but the one in particular is around our optic AI within the server. This encompasses geospatial data, which we see showing up in more and more customer use cases. Both in the public sector and the private as well. Very important for many of our customers. The other big area that we're investing in is the platform itself and increasing the platform's interoperability with existing tooling, support for GraphQL. That actually builds on top of the optic capability and makes developers' lives easier, right? Something we aspire to do at MarkLogic. We always have the developer in mind. We're using powerful multi-model querying capability, but exposing it via more industry standard querying mechanisms. I think some other areas, there's so many data management and monitoring enhancements, helping customers just deal with this exponential rate of growth in data volumes. And lastly, I would probably comment on our continuing investments around Kubernetes and containerization, constantly looking to modernize the platform. Probably just to name a few. We could go on, but I think my guess is some more of that will come up during the Q&A.
Okay, thanks, Jeff, for that. Could you magnify something for me? You mentioned that that graph query language, GraphQL, is usable with the platform. Is that part of the new MarkLogic 11, or has that been intrinsic in the platform for a while? And why are you moving to using GraphQL?
So we've had a couple, and I'll let other folks jump in as well, but we've had the capability. This is one that gets back to our customer interaction and our customer request. There are things that we believe would be interesting to have in MarkLogic, but ultimately what matters is what we're hearing from customers. And customers vote with their feet, they vote with their wallet, they come forward and say, hey, these are areas that I'm investing in. GraphQL is clearly something that has been gaining more momentum in our customer base. So we want to move to a more advanced state of support and also leverage some of the Optic capability to make some of our customers, be able to even enhance the experience they have. So I would say, Chris, there's probably nothing in MarkLogic 11 that you can't directly connect back to customer momentum and interest. And so I view this more as, where the industry is going versus MarkLogic waking up and saying, we think it'd be cool to double down on GraphQL.
Yeah. I've been writing about graph databases for about 6 years now, and have really noticed an upsurge in the interest in those because of many reasons. So I think you're ahead of the game on that for sure. John, got a question for you. Is MarkLogic best utilized in specific verticals, or can it also be used optimally by companies of any size, of any genre?
Yeah. Hey, Chris. Good to meet you virtually. And I think you're familiar with MarkLogic, right? And you understand we've been used successfully to solve complex data problems in almost every industry. As you know, we got our start in publishing and in the public sector, and from there we kind of expanded to financial services, insurance, pharma, biotech, manufacturing, as well as other industries. So our strong focus is really it's solving complex data problems found in those areas: public sector, regulated industries, in the global 2,000 organizations, and that's the majority of our focus. But if you look at some of our use cases, we support, there's some that can be unique to a specific industry, but there's a lot that are found across industries, financial services, regulatory compliance, technology and manufacturing, again, regulatory, safety and compliance. If we look at media and publishing, metadata-driven audience segmentation, pharma and healthcare, right? And, I think we're all exposed more to pharma and healthcare with, the global pandemic with COVID, but research and development, new product introduction, compliance and reporting, once again. And then I think Jeff touched on this a little bit about, when he was talking about security, but government, right? Intelligence and analysis, supply chain operations, logistics, health insurance marketplace for the government, and really, what they refer to as multi-channel citizen engagement. So, we're best utilized on complex data problems, and we go across many industries, and there's use cases that are in those industries, and then there's use cases that go across industry. Companies that are large and small use MarkLogic. The common denominator is really between them all is they have a complex data challenge they need to solve for their business, and they leverage MarkLogic's data platform to provide them a very agile, scalable, and very secure single data platform where they can take advantage of this data and innovate for their customers and their future.
Okay, thanks, John, for that. Appreciate it. Life in IT, like everything, changes all the time. Everything's always evolving. This means the internet's going to be changing, and we've been talking about Web3, whatever that is, the metaverse, whatever that is, for a while, but eventually it'll all shake out. How will MarkLogic connect to the Web3 world, and what new advantages will it bring when used in the upcoming version of the internet? Jeff?
Well, I mean, Chris, you could probably help me with this a little bit as well, because there's there's so much that's been said about Web 3.0. I was reading an article just yesterday on the FTX situation, and that was pulling in Web 3.0 in that conversation, and in that case, it was pulling it in sort of a negative light, talking about this over decentralization and the lack of sort of checks and balances. And so I think there's a lot of buzzwords and a lot of confusion being thrown around. I'll probably try to oversimplify this a bit, and then maybe we can go back and forth. I think there's always these extremes, right? Web 2 was a move towards centralization and control by a few. There's been a lot written about that and the need to move away from that. Web 3 has been described as the opposite, and depending on who you talk to, a move towards decentralization, leading to more democratization on how information is shared and utilized and exchanged. Most of the conversations that I've been seeing seem to focus heavily on the blockchain aspects of Web3, this ability of authenticity, right, of distributed and delegated data. And in reality, this is really exposing what I think is at the core of Web3, which is it's really a data-centric model. What most, if not all members, I think, of that world have in common is that they focus on data. Where's the data coming from? What knowledge can be derived from it? Can it be easily repurposed and contextualized? All of those are going to be core to any Web3 application or environment. And I think those end up being core to the MarkLogic data platform. The best way to leverage this type of data, we believe, is in a multi-model format, right? That's the only way to handle the variety of the data provenance, the nature, to understand, especially in the FTX example, right? The security and the lineage, the auditability, right? How many times have we read in the last few weeks auditability, right? How do you ensure this authenticity and accessibility of the data while keeping it confidential? And these are all core elements inherent in MarkLogic. And then lastly, you really can't have an effective Web3 environment unless you have scalability and performance, right? These are talking about massive scale, given the volumes at stake. So I think there's a lot there to unpack in Web3, but I think at its core, I'd summarize by saying it's about data. And I think MarkLogic plays a really key role in that moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I think you unpacked quite a bit, Jeff. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. It just seemed to me to go hand in glove with what's going to be needed in the future. We're going to have only more and more data pouring into our coffers. It's not going to lessen up anytime soon.
I agree.
A multimodal platform like this seems custom made for that increase in data, keeping it clean and keeping it accessible and secure. So I think you're in a good lane there. It seems like along these lines, talking about the future, is MarkLogic considered future proof? I know that a potential customer might ask you that. What's your answer to that?
Yeah, listen, I touched upon this a little bit in my opening comments around, there's always that point when you're engaging with a customer that you're trying to solve a specific need that they have in that point in time. But ultimately, nobody wants to end up, 2 years or 3 years later as business requirements shift, realizing that you've hit a wall and you need to start over. And unfortunately, a lot of the MarkLogic opportunities that we have had over the years are coming into failed implementations, or implementations that may have been successful for a period of time, But once the requirements changed, the rigidity of that implementation did not allow enough flexibility. So when I think about future proofing, I really think about this data agility, right? It's, why is it that we have customers that purchased MarkLogic 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they're still able to leverage it today, even though the use cases have changed dramatically? And I think it's this focus that we put on data agility, right? We know that things are going to change, business requirements, data, so forth, right? But with the unified data platform, our customers can feel confident that we are prepared to respond to these changes. And listen, this doesn't happen overnight, right? It's a culture. Our R&D efforts are aligned to this flexibility, right? It's historically been a strength of ours. We continue to build out capabilities that expand what our customers can do to evolve the platform to continually meet new needs and requirements. And ultimately, Chris, we're going to keep listening to where customers want to go. One of the fastest ways to put yourself out of business is to stick your head in the sand and start to believe that all the best answers are around the table inside your company. So we are aggressively interacting with our customers, really trying to understand what they see happening in their businesses over the horizon and making them part of that journey with us. And again, I think MarkLogic, it's a release infused with customer interaction and feedback. It's not created in a vacuum. And I think that's the ultimate way you future-proof, is through that dialogue. And listen, we've been wrong in certain areas, and we'll acknowledge we're wrong and say, okay, we're going to stop doing that. And let's be focused and make sure we stay true to our principles.
Very good. Thanks.
Chris, I might add just one more piece to what Jeff walked through, right? We're very focused across the board on future-proofing, customer intimacy, knowing where the customers are going, making sure the product can deliver on their business demands. We've also, put a lot of energy, and it's such an exciting time to be part of the MarkLogic 11 release, and that we're building that future-proof into the software in every aspect. All the industry standards, making sure that what we're building today in MarkLogic 11 is prepared to move forward to MarkLogic 12, and really leveraging the latest in technologies. And as the market moves and as new things become available, our product management and our engineering teams are doing a great job of planning out and being very strategic in how they introduce new things into the product to allow it to adapt, absorb, and expand in the future.
Yeah, I get it, you guys. You listen to your customers. You have to. There's no question about it. If you don't, you're in the wrong lane completely. You got to do it. So you both have referenced listening to your customers several times during our discussion here. How do your customers help drive your roadmap? What's the feedback loop? And are you always listening to them, John?
Yeah, it's great question. And it's an area I'm very focused on. So I think of the question, I guess where we look, first of all, is customer intimacy. It's a key focus for us in the business. We're spending time out in the field. I'm out traveling, Jeff's out traveling. Our leadership team is meeting with customers, trying to have conversations to understand what our customers are doing with MarkLogic, where they're going with MarkLogic, where they're going with their business, and how MarkLogic can help them get there. And really giving us that 360 leadership view from the field that we take back into the company. In addition to that, we have tremendous people on the front lines, right? I'll start with our experienced account managers and our engineering and our sales engineering teams. They're out there working with customers, deploying solutions, architecting solutions, understanding what the customers across all the sectors I mentioned earlier are trying to accomplish, and they're helping understand it. And then they have direct feedback loop into our product management, into our engineering groups, as well as even our support groups. And then there's consulting, right? Another front-end facing organization that is out there deploying our solutions, implementing our technologies across the board, helping or working with partners, as well as working directly with customers. And then, knowledge transference, right? Making sure there's a two-way knowledge transference. So they're sharing, best practices and things around MarkLogic, but they're also internalizing what the what the user experience is, and they also have a mechanism to feed back into product management, engineering, and support. So those two areas, front end facing, very deliberate feedback loop mechanisms. In addition to that, we have two other organizations. We have support and customer success, and those are dedicated functions. They're separate from sales, right? They're communicating and connecting with customers directly. Support has direct ties into what they're experiencing, when they're resolving an issue for a customer, preparing knowledge bases, presenting that information back to our product management and engineering teams, and a direct communication there. And then there's customer success. We've invested in customer success management and deployed customer success people in multiple geographies around the globe to get more intimate and to understand, again, to be having conversations, understanding what all of our customers around the globe are doing, making sure they're aware of the latest technologies that we're introducing in our product, making sure that they have an opportunity to benefit from all this investment that's going into MarkLogic. So I think when I think about the question, it's a very exciting time at MarkLogic. We've improved upon these communication channels. We've put customer intimacy at the forefront. It's something Jeff talks about all the time in being close to our customers. And we're making sure that all those different groups within the organization have unilateral communication across them versus keeping entities siloed. So with that, I think we're listening, we're digesting, we're giving feedback, and we're also internalizing it for how the different groups work with the information that they get from our customers.
Very good. Thank you, John, and thanks, Jeff, for going under the hood here and giving us a high-level look at what MarkLogic is doing. We're going to go a little bit deeper now with a Q&A from from outside, and also we'll bring in the reserves for some extra expertise here. So let's do that now. Philip?
Yep. Hi there, gentlemen. Chris, I'd like to thank you for your time today, your contribution, those great questions, and moderating that fireside chat. Thanks very much for coming. John and Jeff, great to hear some of those responses. Yeah, I can agree. As a member of the customer success team, we really are focused on our customers. Joining us today will be members of our executive team. So we've got James Kerr and Matthew Gonzalez. They're on our engineering side of things. They're the ones really driving the product forward. They'll be answering some of the questions. We've also got Jeremy Bentley from a strategy point of view. And then we've got Noel McMullen, from the operating side of our business, as well as the general manager for the Semaphore guys. So, yeah, we've already got some questions that have come through, and I think one of the interesting ones that we've had is, how do you see, Jeff, the current competitive landscape? We've got lots of products out there that purport to do similar things to MarkLogic, if not the same. So what's the key differentiator there?
Sure, Phil. Is that directed at me? I didn't hear the first part.
Yeah, so it's just I know you had some good thoughts on this, so I just wanted to see if we could share those.
Yeah, listen, I love to talk about this. I love to talk about this topic because we got some background noise, so folks who want to stay on mute. Really, the way I think about the competition in this environment is that the competition is ultimately customers that are trying to pull together a half a dozen or a dozen different products from different companies and gluing them together in some way, shape, or form to achieve the same outcome. So it's a little bit of sort of a sideways way to answer the question, but if you're looking for everything that exists in one platform, there is nothing else that can do what MarkLogic can do. You can do it. You can do it by gluing together a database and search and semantics and all these other capabilities, but it's very difficult once you do that to be able to then maintain security and scalability and performance. It's just very hard to reconcile the two of those. And as anybody knows, then as you start to have enhancements that are not in sync from these different companies, you've now created something unique that's very hard to then maintain as you move forward. So that's one of the things that we've really tried to focus in on, is utilizing the power of the platform, simplifying time to value for customers. And the feedback we get over and over from customers is that they can immediately and instantly search and get value from MarkLogic versus implementations that in some cases go on for years and never actually achieve what they're trying to get done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Cheers, Jeff. Like I say, it's really interesting to see, especially the two products coming together now, what we're able to offer to our customers. So yeah, that's really good to know. I've just got a question for Matthew here. Is from someone is, what's the product going to be called? Essentially, is the question. We've got the MarkLogic side of things, and now we've got the Semaphore side of things, and we're integrating them. What are we calling these products as we go forward? Matthew, I'll just bring you up there. There we go.
So the names of the modules are not changing. We've got the MarkLogic server that we all know. We've got Semaphore for the metadata management part of it, and the two are part of the MarkLogic data platform. So it's a new platform name coming up.
Okay.
Not very imaginative, but at least it's descriptive.
Yeah, no, I think it pretty much says what it says on the tin. And those two products, those we're going to continue to integrate those two products as we go down the road.
Absolutely. So in MarkLogic 11, you already have a number of integration touchpoints, ability to save classification data directly into MarkLogic, those sort of things. I mean, clearly the ability to manage ontologies in MarkLogic was there for a while. So all of that is there and there to stay. In 12, we're also adding additional capabilities going forward, at the data orchestration level. So in DHF, in Hub Central, the ability to call out two classification stages, for example, will be important things.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And so there's a question regarding the sort of Java APIs, and let me just bring that up. So does ML have MFA at the UI end, sort of an admin console or something that can use? And I guess, Matthew, I'm going to go back to you there on that one. We won't let you get away with it just yet.
Yeah, so MFA is typically an IDP function, so identity provider. If you're using OAuth or OpenID, for example, OpenID Connect, I mean, those things are transparent. So yes, you can use MFA when accessing MarkLogic applications. I mean, some customers have done it for a long time. And even if you have physical tokens, I'm thinking CAC card or NHS cards, those are also supported so long as your IDP provider supports them.
Okay. All right then. And then I think we've just had a quick question come through on the chat, which is, I believe somebody's mic is open. Let me just see if I can turn those off. I don't know whether that's mine. Let me just see. No, I don't know why that's doing that. Everybody could just mute their mics and just double check that that's... No. I'm not sure, unfortunately. I don't know where that background noise is coming from. But anyway, we'll move on, and we'll look at this question that just come in. Actually, it's one of the key aspects of Web3 seems to be accessing all of the past states of knowledge and transaction. The blockchain handles this with immutable ledgers, but MarkLogic has the ability via point-in-time queries. Could you speak to the scalability of the point-in-time rollbacks with reference to infinite rollbacks capabilities for the blockchain? Now, I'm going to put James Kerr on the spot here for this one, but feel free to contribute if you can elsewhere. James?
Yeah, sure. As mentioned, yeah, MarkLogic supports point-in-time queries. Both temporal and bitemporal queries, and yeah, those features are essentially designed to scale just as MarkLogic scales, right? So MarkLogic is a horizontally scalable database, shared nothing cluster architecture. And so the point-in-time queries with either unitemporal or bitemporal scales along with really any of the normal dimensions that data scales in MarkLogic. So those features are well positioned to match the type of scalability that's being discussed there.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you very much for that one.
I mean, I might add something there.
Yes, of course, Jeremy, go for it.
Because sometimes it's a bit esoteric to think about bitemporal, temporal capabilities, but it's incredibly important in regulated industries, compliance processing, because it essentially allows you to ask a question of what data do we know at this point in time. And of course, when you're in a complex regulated environment, you need to be able to prove to regulators, to internal compliance teams, exactly what you knew when you took a business decision. So this temporality is incredibly useful when you have to, prove you knew something or you didn't know something. The data was in this state at this point in time. This is why we took this decision. And that's one of the reasons that regulated and complex data needs it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, I've had a number of conversations. We were at Big Data London this year, and we had a number of conversations with people, and certainly the bitemporality or lineage or provenance features within MarkLogic seem to pique quite a lot of people's interest. It allows you to know when you knew what you knew about your data, which can be incredibly important for, like I say, regulated industries, but also looking at data quality or data cleansing for AI and machine learning as well. You've got clean data because you can prove every point of what you've done up until getting that into the AI itself. So, yeah, it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, and it's of course there's a wider subject of auditability, transparency, repeatability, where you've got to be able to show the steps the data went through, what was made, and all of those play a part around this whole idea of data governance.
Yeah, and I think that also plays a larger part in sort of MDM as a whole. So that master data management, not only sort of the data lineage and data provenance, but the governance and the control of the data. There was a customer, I think, beginning of this year, maybe last, who did one of these with us, Boudoir's Assurance, and they've got a great MDM use case where they show why they chose MarkLogic against traditional MDM tools, and they're now building upon that platform because of the features that we're able to use. So, no, that's great. Thank you very much, Jeremy. We just had another question. Is MarkLogic 11 officially supporting Docker and Kubernetes? How about the support to upgrade to MarkLogic 11 for existing AWS customer environment that is running AWS CloudFormation? And I'm going to return to James on this one. James, what would you say to that question?
Yeah, so MarkLogic is currently working on a set of capabilities for Kubernetes. We just released our early access or second early access for our Kubernetes Helm chart, which will allow you to easily deploy MarkLogic clusters into Kubernetes environments. That is actually available for download as of this week. And we're currently targeting the February timeframe for general availability for the Kubernetes capability. That said, MarkLogic does support running in Docker containers. We released general availability of a Docker container that's certified for production use, and that's available on Docker Hub. We released that back in October. And so MarkLogic has always been, or for a long time, has been supported running in Docker, with customers building their own images. And but yeah, as of October, we released our own image that can be used for production. And MarkLogic 11 is also released on Docker Hub in a container. And yeah, the next step, as I mentioned, will be the capability of rolling out MarkLogic clusters using Kubernetes Helm charts, and that's targeted for the February timeframe.
Okay, great. Thank you, James. Thanks for that. I'm going to go across to Matthew, I think.
Sorry, I realized you skipped the AWS question.
There we go, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so the MarkLogic 11 is currently published online as of today, but the CloudFormation, the AMIs and CloudFormation templates, they take a little bit of time to roll out onto the AWS marketplace. So once those roll out, the upgrade process for upgrading to MarkLogic 11 for existing environments will be the same as it was for any upgrade between MarkLogic, a maintenance release of MarkLogic 10, right? So documented procedure for upgrading between versions of MarkLogic with the CloudFormation templates.
Okay, thanks for that, and thanks for keeping me honest there. I'm gonna go across now to Matthew, and we're just gonna ask the question: how is the Data Hub affected by MarkLogic 11? Have there been any components of the Data Hub which have implemented in ML core, as it were?
So, no, not really. So Data Hub is version 5.8, etc. The latest we've done are compatible with MarkLogic 11. There are some features in DHF older versions that are not compatible with MarkLogic 11. So you've got to choose your version matrix, but that's published and available online in our knowledge bases and documentation. I think that the bottom line is in DHF and Hub Central, there's clear upgrade and clear compatibility matrices, and we just need to follow the same rules and documentation for MarkLogic 11.
And then I'm going to do an open question, even though I think I know who might answer this. But how is MarkLogic being used in the public sector for public organizations, institutions, or agencies around the world? Who would like to have a stab at that? Should we go with Jeff?
I was trying to mute everything to make sure I wasn't the one doing it in the process. I think I had
No.
I muted so much I didn't know where to begin. So as I think most are aware, the public sector has been throughout our history a critical customer base for MarkLogic. We're fortunate to have some of the highest visibility implementations throughout the public sector. Going through the history, if we look more on the healthcare side, I think our healthcare.gov implementation now, at the time it started, was probably the largest of its kind. That's now been running on, probably, multiple years at a high performance level, and that continues to expand. Out of that, we then expanded into Medicaid and did, 3 of the first states that leverage the Medicaid systems to integrate with healthcare.gov were launched on MarkLogic. We continue to talk about more on the military side. As you would expect, the capabilities of the MarkLogic data platform lend itself extremely well to that environment. 3 of the armed service branches are leveraging MarkLogic, most of the intelligence agencies, and we see that continuing to expand. So I would say all the conversations that we're having in that space are generating a significant amount of both new use cases to leverage MarkLogic, as well as a lot of new exciting ideas in terms of where we can take the product in its direction. One of the areas that our customer base has been vocal about in that space is adding more visual object linkage front end to the product, allowing a broader persona or user base to directly interact with MarkLogic. When you have this much capability and this much power in one platform, it starts to change your thought process on what type of people that you'd like to have directly interact with it. So you're going to see continuing investments by MarkLogic in expanding in terms of our ability to make MarkLogic far more accessible, regardless of your level of technical expertise and background. So I think those are probably the areas directionally that we're spending the most energy on in the public sector.
And I know that the cloud is a very large trend in the private industry, but have we done anything with cloud in the public sector?
I mean, clearly, cloud in most of our organizations coexist with on-prem. So I would, again, getting back to our customer base, right? Global 2000, highly regulated industries, public sector. I would call that a hybrid environment almost entirely. I can't think of a customer that we have that's completely on-prem or completely on the cloud. Some of the customers who did some very early big cloud implementations have probably repatriated some of that. Some of the ones that were heavily, trying to stay on-prem have now kind of migrated. But I think it's fair to say we're living in a hybrid world moving forward. And I think that is directly aligned and consistent with the direction of MarkLogic, right? We started the company, obviously, as most did, as a powerful on-prem platform. We're seeing customers that want to leverage it where appropriate with public cloud providers. And we have partnerships with the public cloud providers. We have a very high percentage of MarkLogic implementations today that are resident in the cloud with some of the major cloud providers. And so we just see that as an ecosystem. And again, it's very consistent with the approach. Where are our customers going? What are the environments they want to operate in? Who are the ecosystem partners that they value? As we hear that, we double down in those areas. And I think that's going to bring us more towards a hybrid environment where things that should run on-prem will reside on-prem. Things that are more appropriately run in a cloud environment will run in that environment. And I think directionally that's where we're going to see that going.
Okay, great. No, thank you very much for that one.
Maybe just one thing to add on that, because we're seeing more and more customers going multi-cloud, actually. And that's in large part what is driving our Kubernetes effort. The ability to orchestrate with one tool set across different vendors, including for on-prem cloud, dedicated cloud platforms, essentially private cloud, like the Dell or the Red Hat might offer.
No, great. And I know we've talked a lot about MarkLogic 11. We've talked about the MarkLogic server, the data hub, and things like that. But I'm keen to get to the other side of the business as well. Perhaps if we start off with explaining one of the key concepts that's in the Semaphore tool itself, and then we might go on to some of the successes that you've had on that. So, Jeremy, could you maybe discuss or explain the human AI that is now in the MarkLogic data platform with Semaphore?
Sure. Here's the idea. We care deeply about data quality. And there's a myth, which is you can take some machine learning algorithms, you can pour some data into it, and that will come wonderful results. And the reality is that the wonderful results which you can get out of machine learning, and we use a lot of it, and we've got very good specialists in this area. The reality is you actually have to get a maths grad to drive the algorithm to get the good results. and you have to spend a huge amount of time with training sets, and that's all appropriate when your learning is tight. I think that's quite well known. But the reality of business is that subject matter experts, business people, so if you're trying to use AI to solve an accountancy problem, you probably want to start with an accountant who understands the accountancy problem, not a maths grad who's trying to turn a subject that they don't understand into it. So we say, and this is where we apply a lot of time, is we should have the AI governed, driven, and controlled by the business, by business users. So they help set the machine through their knowledge models, through their knowledge. And then the magic has been to make that model of knowledge drive and control the artificial intelligence. So we say that it's human controlled AI because it's actually controlled by the human, by the subject matter expert, by the business expert, who can put their knowledge capture their knowledge in an easy way. And then after that knowledge is captured, we can press a button, and that's what governs all of the machine processing. And it also gives us another opportunity, because business need to trust data, and they need to be able to check its quality. And the only way you can do that is if you can show how their knowledge, in combination with the data that it's made some determination on, has been treated. What data did it use? How did it apply a certain thing? And so you need to be able to be transparent and be able to, if you like, to open up or shine a light into what is a complicated piece of software that business people can understand, so they can check its results, they can set its results. So that's why we talk about, and that's the basic principle of Semaphore, and all of its metadata management capabilities. It's got to be easy to use by a business person, and the output needs to be able to be inspected by a business person, and they need to be able to believe and see that they can trust the output, and that output has to be high quality. Otherwise, it won't get used in business.
Okay, and Matthew, there's one about the integration between MarkLogic 11 and Semaphore, and bringing those two together. What advantages does that platform now offer to customers when they combine that highly advanced metadata with MarkLogic's capabilities and semantics?
The ability to have all the data and everything that is known about the data in one place. We talked today about the veracity and trustworthiness of data, about lineage, about metadata. Well, metadata is data. It's extremely valuable data, in fact, because it has been curated. It is more reliable often than the data itself. And the integration of the two stacks means that data quality, metadata quality, that is now held in MarkLogic can be much higher, can be much more oriented towards the goals of the business. We can overlay several layers of interpretation, several versions of interpretations, add ontologies, and all things that MarkLogic can natively do with the capabilities that it has on the storage, on the query and the retrieval side, now leveraging even more metadata quality, even more metadata standards by the use of Semaphore.
No, that's great. Thank you, Matthew. I think we're reaching the end of the questions that are coming through now. So, Jeff, do you have any sort of closing comments that you'd like to make to our customers, partners, and potentially future MarkLogic innovators?
Yeah, thank you very much, Phil. First of all, this wouldn't be possible without you, and the culture that we have been driving within MarkLogic is not just a customer-centric focus, but it's one of humility. We have deep respect and appreciation for the role that we play and the responsibility that it puts on MarkLogic, and we think about that every day. We want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to have the platform be as stable as reliable, and as consistent. And as much as we put our energy into enhancements and innovations and new areas of technology that we want to expose in the platform, we really place a very high bar on making sure that anything we want to add to the platform has to enhance that overall core aspect of security and stability. We can't do it at the expense of those things. The other thing I would say is as we're celebrating MarkLogic 11, we're thinking about MarkLogic 12. And for all the folks that have been working on MarkLogic 11 and are thinking of getting a break and having the holidays, don't be nervous. I'm not trying to steal Christmas, so there's plenty of time for that. But as our customers are thinking about this, we'd ask you to look forward with us. What do you want this product to look like? Where do you want us to go with it? There's so much that we're able to do. The acquisition of SmartLogic, I think, was important, not just because of the technology within SmartLogic. I think it was important because it was the first acquisition in the history of the company. So we're also showing that there's multiple paths to innovation. We don't have a not invented here syndrome. So where we see opportunities, or you as customers see companies that we should be partnering with or getting deeper in terms of our technology exchanges, we are more than open to doing that. We want to be as exposed to the outside world, to ecosystems, and to partnerships as possible, because that's going to allow us to be more effective for you. And with that, again, thanks to the MarkLogic family for everything you've done. It's been an incredible 2 years. Moved to a high profitable business with strong growth, and we couldn't be more excited about what lies ahead. So with that, I think we wrap up, Phil.
Cheers, Jeff. Thank you very much. Chris, I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us today, for joining the executive team here at MarkLogic. We really do appreciate your time and the research that you did on us before you came here. Thanks again to the executive team, to Jeff, for today's session. Going forward, we will continue with our digital acceleration and our vision series. Like we said already, the next technical deep dive for MarkLogic 11 is in January on the 18th at 4 p.m. GMT, 11 a.m. ET. We will get more details out to you in the coming days on that. If you want more information about MarkLogic 11, go on to marklogic.com/ML11. I have one question that came in that we didn't get to, but it was, how do I get in contact with the customer success team? If you want to get in contact with the customer success team, really easy, csm@marklogic.com. We're all on that email, and we can pick up any inquiries, questions, or support that you need. And with that, we'll close today's session. Thank you very much for everyone that attended, and thanks for all our speakers today. We wish you all a happy holidays.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again. Happy holidays.
Bye.